Well, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people are wondering with the recent surge of Donald Trump, does he have a chance at the popular vote? People kind of wanting to go for the kill shot here with the Republican potentially winning the popular vote. That's something they've kind of held over Trump's head going back to 2016. Although I will say, if you want to explain the popular vote, the dynamic with importing the immigrants and obviously a lot of those immigrants becoming liberal, and you've got people that have been in the country for just a few years voting liberal. It's not nearly as the same as someone born in the country and voting, and they try and make it out to be the same, and they try and make that the popular vote when that's really not the popular vote, because you're involving people coming into the country. We know immigrants coming in vote liberal about 65 to 70% of the time. So the popular vote is not what they make it seem, because when you can import the people and it's 70% of them coming in vote liberal, it's going to be very easy to keep winning the popular vote, even if people within the country, the natural born citizens, are shifting to the right, which is what we've seen, by the way, with voter registration. That's why the popular vote really is not that important, although I will say it's more of a symbolic thing, and I think there's no reason that Trump should not win the popular vote in 2024. It doesn't matter. I mean, listen, if you were to tell me right now Trump loses the popular vote by 3 points but wins, I would take it. Just give me the win. But listen, when it comes to the popular vote, Trump lost it by around 2 points. What was it? 2.2 against Hillary and then 4.2 against Biden. So certainly we would expect it to be a lot closer than Biden. People saying maybe around 2. You know, I did a prediction with margins and I had Harris winning the popular vote by 1.1. And people were they were disputing it. They were saying, no, Trump's going to win the popular vote. I think it's probably going to be a 1 to 2 point victory in terms of the popular vote for Kamala. You can see this is the popular vote winner right here, according to the betting odds. And we've seen the great betting shifts in terms of the chances Trump wins, which is the Electoral College. We haven't necessarily seen that shift with the popular vote. Now, we've seen it a little bit. Trump was around 23, 24%. Now he's up to around 29, 30. So he's made a 6 or a 7% improvement over the past, looks like September 28th, 29th through the past 2 weeks. And if it comes down to it, when it comes to the election, it's probably going to be about 70-30 on election night. That would be my expectation unless we continue to see shifts. But there is a recent trend over the past few days where these polls are just extremely tight. And so when it comes to the popular vote, it might not even matter, and it probably won't because the states are so close. Like, whether Trump wins or loses Pennsylvania, it's more going to matter, can Trump make up significant ground in New York, in Illinois, in California? Trump was already in New York. He's going back to New York to Madison Square Garden. Trump is going to California. I think he'll at least make up a few points in California. We're seeing the shift off of many of these liberal states. I think he's going to make up points in Oregon. He'll probably make up a few points in Washington. He's going to make up likely a few points in Illinois, but I do want to focus in on New York when it comes to the popular vote because it is very interesting. Now, this was something I put out a few days ago where I'll just show the 2016 result, 2020 result, and then my projection in 2024. And as you can see in 2016, this would have been Hillary. She won it by 22.5 points. In 2020, Biden won it by 23.1. So Biden actually outperformed Hillary, and that's what we saw with a lot of states from 2016 to 2020 shifting left. 2024, though, the polls that we've seen, and by the way, I think this is a very conservative estimation. Like, if I were to actually give based off of how wrong the New York polls have been in terms of underestimating Trump would really only lose New York according to a projection by around 9.5 to 10 points. Now, I don't think New York can shift that far. We saw what happened with the suburban areas surrounding New York City in 2022, the crazy right shift. And I think we're going to continue to see that with the rally that Trump had, with the Madison Square Garden rally. Trump is going to make up significant ground in terms of the popular vote. Now, this does not matter for the Electoral College. There is no way Donald Trump is winning New York. It's just not going to happen. It cannot shift 23 points. Is there a chance that would ever happen in American history? Yes, but nowadays with how partisan we are, even if Biden was running, if they ran a corpse where Biden was like on his deathbed, he would probably take New York still by like 6 or 7 points. There's just too many people ingrained right now. Can Republicans eventually shift New York? Maybe by like 2032, 2036. It's very hard. I mean, look at Texas. Look at how hard it is for Texas to shift liberal. And that's with liberals moving into Texas and them it's not like they're changing people's opinions in the state. They're just getting migration into the state. And another reason why I think Trump potentially could win the popular vote is because you've got people leaving California, moving to Texas, and it looks like Texas is going to stay possibly around the same margin that Trump won it in 2020 by maybe even more, because Trump won it by around 9 points in 2016. It got cut to 5.8 in 2020. Libs are like, oh my goodness, now you talk about the pandemic, all the liberal people moving away from California, moving away from Illinois, moving to Austin, Texas, better taxes, better cost of living. And they're like, oh, we're going to get it to 2 or 3 points now just based off migration. Well, according to polls, that's not what's happening. And by the way, polls also seem to underestimate Trump in Texas at least a little bit. You've got polls right now on average saying Trump's up by like 5 or 6 in Texas. It's hard to grade, how much do you oversample Republicans by because of the migration that liberals we've seen move into that state in the past 4 years. But still, it wouldn't surprise me if Trump was able to hold the lead in Texas of around 6 or 7 points. So you're talking about maintaining that Texas advantage, people leaving California. So you're going to, not only that, you're also probably going to make California closer in terms of, I don't know how much Trump lost it by. Actually, I'm going to take a look at the California margin really quickly. Looking at this, Harris up by 23.7. What was the margin? Yeah, so again, you're seeing another state. This is a very liberal state, tons of people there, crazy population right now. And I would imagine Trump's probably going to outperform these polls because he hasn't even had his huge rally in California. I'm not saying it's going to swing at 10 points, but it's probably going to help a little bit. You're seeing the most recent poll done, Harris plus 22. That's a huge lead, right? Well, Hillary won it by almost 29. Remember, Hillary won the popular vote by 2 points. Biden won it by around 29.5. He won the popular vote by 4 points. You're seeing even California come down to maybe a 21, 22 point win for Harris. That's a 7-point difference. You've got a difference in New York. You're going to probably have a difference in Illinois. You're talking about these big population centers shifting a little bit right. You can see the result in 2020. Biden was plus 17. I think based off of the polling that we saw, Trump versus Biden, you can actually see it right here. I guess there's 0 Biden versus Kamala polls, which is pretty crazy. You've got a pretty crazy Emerson poll. Wait, was this from last year then? October? Why would they do a Biden? Yeah, this might have been from last year. But either way, I think it's probably around a 10-point victory, 11-point victory for Kamala over Trump in Illinois, which again, you would figure is going to help significantly in terms of the popular vote based on the population in Illinois. So that's what we're really watching. How close can Trump get it in these New York is obviously the big one there, plus 13.5. I've seen polls that are around plus 12, plus 11. The Trump-Biden polls were just remarkable. I mean, you had 2 polls. These numbers are crazy. Plus 7.5. It's ridiculous. They did 5-way polls. I think it was even closer. You had New Jersey polls that were ridiculously close as well. That's another state I haven't even talked about, New Jersey. You've still got some polls. You had Biden. This is crazy. You had Hillary win it by almost 13. You had Biden win it by almost 20. This is New Jersey, and this just shows you the environment that we were in 2020 and how liberal it was. And Trump still barely losing the election by only 40,000 votes, but getting it run up on in terms of the electoral, in terms of the popular vote, losing by 4 points. But you're not going to see that. You're going to see Trump probably cut into this in half. We were seeing New Jersey Biden Trump polls that were around 6 or 7 point leads. There were other polls as well. I don't know. See, Real Clear Politics, they've taken away some of the polls or whatever. They've only got one poll here from Emerson that had Biden plus 7. They were leaking New Jersey Biden internal polls that had Biden up by a point. And so when you talk about New Jersey, you talk about California, you talk about New York, this is the exact thing we're talking. Also, the other thing is you're going to see Ohio. Well, this is the other. When you talk about Republican states, I think Ohio is going to trend more conservative by at least 1.5, maybe 2 points. It's going to be probably a 9.5 to a 10-point victory from 8.1. A lot of people think Ohio is going to be even more conservative than that. I know Ohio politics. I live in Ohio. What we saw in 2022 was a little bit of a letdown. Okay, J.D. Vance only won by 5.5 points, guys. We did not see the same shift that we saw in Florida as we did in Ohio. People were asking me, why are you projecting Trump to win Florida by 11.5, but Ohio by only 9.5? It's because of the shift we saw during the midterms in 2022, along with the migration to Florida. I think Ohio is more conservative than it was. And by the way, for Ohio to maintain the 8.1 point margin, because if you guys don't know, Trump won Ohio in 2016 by 8.1 points, and he won Ohio in 2020 by the exact same amount, 8.1 points. And you're seeing the shift that we've seen in all these other states going more liberal in 2020. Ohio didn't do that, it stayed. So I do think that's another thing to where you're looking at a 9.5 to a 10-point victory, at least for Trump in Ohio. And then the other big one would be Florida. And I'm expecting around an 11 to a 12-point victory in Florida. You've got some recent polls. Part of the problem with these polls is a lot of these pollsters are giving a Republican +3 sample because Trump won the state by 3 points in 2020. It's very hard to do this. And this might also be a problem with Texas as well, depending on what sample they use. But the problem with this is the shift we've seen in Florida since 2020, where it was a Republican +3 state to what it is now. It's been so crazy. And I mean, this magnifies it. Look at this. This date in 2020, the Democrats thought they were going to win Florida. Like, think about how crazy that is 4 years later, where we think Trump's going to win it by double digits. They had Biden up by almost 4 points this day in 2020. Now Trump's up by 6.2. That's almost a 10-point shift in the polls alone. That's a 10-point shift in the polls alone. And think about how wrong they were in October of 2020. Biden plus 3.7. They were wrong by 7 points because Trump won it by 3.2. So they're wrong by 7 to 8 points. They're probably going to be wrong by 7 or 8. I mean, I think Trump's going to win Florida by 11 or 12. The voter registration is right now Republican +7 to +8. This is a Republican +8 environment with independents going for Trump. Trump's going to win this state by 11 or 12 points. This is going to help with the popular vote in comparison to what we saw in 2016 and 2020. +3, +1. Now you're talking about +11, +12. This state's got a big population. It's going to help significantly in terms of the popular vote. I would be shocked if Trump lost the popular vote by more than 1.5 points based off of all of this, all of these liberal states shifting to the right. No, he's not going to win New York. No, he's not going to win Illinois. No, he's not going to win California. But we're going to see I mean, look at how close these polls are. My God. You've got +0.4, +0.5, +0.5, +0.5, +0.3, +. These polls are very, very close. It's good news for Trump because we know the polls tend to underestimate Trump, but this is pretty crazy what's going on right now with the polls. Either way, guys, I do think Trump's going to perform very well relative to how he did in 2020 or 2016 in terms of the popular vote. It would be very nice to win the popular vote. We all understand that, but it doesn't really matter. But I will say if Trump won the popular vote, I would guarantee you Republicans win the House because that would be a correlation. Even if Trump loses the popular vote by only 0.5 point to a point, I think Republicans take the House. We know Republicans are taking the Senate. That's why Libs' now new tactic is to talk about an independent winning Nebraska. That's how desperate they've gotten. They know they're going to lose Ohio. They're on track right now, possibly to lose Michigan in the Senate. The Republicans are going to get 52, 53 seats, I would say minimum in the Senate. And if Trump can keep the popular vote very close, it's going to be very good for the House races. And that's why Trump's going to California. The House is very important. He's putting in a lot of effort for the House. And he thinks that he is sitting pretty right now in terms of, and listen, there's still a lot of work to be done. You're not saying he's guaranteed to win this, that, and the other. I mean, I can say I think he's going to win whatever. But in terms of their campaign, there's still full-fledged work. They've got more ground people. You look at the comparison on who's done more rallies. Think about how crazy this is. I was talking about this during my live stream last night. There was all this finger pointing to Hillary Clinton back in 2016. They said she was overconfident. She wasn't doing any rallies late in the game in the Rust Belt. What is that? Well, now you've got Kamala Harris polling way worse than Hillary was, doing 1/2 of the rallies that Trump is doing, and none of the liberals are complaining. I don't understand that. They yell at Hillary. They say, oh, Hillary should have campaigned more. Well, Kamala Harris is doing 1/2 of the events Donald Trump is doing, and none of the liberals seem to care. I think they know she can't draw people and that it would just be embarrassing for her to do these events. You've got Walz doing events in elementary school gyms. It's a total joke. I think we could see Trump win the popular vote. He just has to win it by 0.1. You just win it any means, but really it doesn't matter. As long as he keeps it close, I've got it as like a 1.1 Kamala victory. I might lower it to around a 0.7, 0.8 Kamala victory. Depends what we see out of some polls in California. I'm sure there's going to be a few California polls that come out. If it's like +20, +19 for Kamala, that's good news for Trump because that's a 7 or an 8 point shift in a state that has a huge population. So that's going to help you in terms. And also you're expecting not a high turnout, not nearly as high turnout as we saw in 2020. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.